We're going to start with a poll. If we can start taking a seat, that would be great. People online, if you do have any questions, put your questions in our Q&A function. Emma and I will be answering all your questions while they come through.
Well, I'm 8 years old, I'm a Levi, and I watched the Olympics and I watched lawn bowls. Then I said to my mum, can I please do lawn bowls? And then my mum said, it's only for old people. And then I came to Barunya. This guy came up to me called Patrick, and then he asked me, do you want to be a member? And I said yes.
Well, when he first came in, you know, he's got a great personality. Everyone in the club now knows Levi.
Oh, yeah.
He's a very positive person to have around. You can't help but like Levi.
When I first met Val, she was so kind. She showed us where to bowl.
Yeah, we hit it off straight away. She came up with her brother.
When she used to get a really good bowl, she used to do this little dance and it was really funny. She always gives me tips for when I bowl. Well, everyone here does. Everyone's so nice and welcoming. I always thought older people were such great people, and I found out that they can be a lot more fun than I thought they could be.
There's a lot that older people can offer younger people.
I think older and younger people should make friendship and play games together.
Even the young children, they can enjoy bowls, and you see them developing and enjoying it, so you get a lot of enjoyment out of that.
Rather than being a parent, we're actually treated as a friend, and she always gives me a big hug when she comes and goes, so yeah. It's lovely.
Such a good friendship.
Yes.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. My name is Mayan, and I'm the Social Connections Coordinator here at Knox. Welcome to our first ever Intergenerational Hybrid Forum. I'm very, very excited today. I'm very excited because we have members from our local community here joining us in the room, but then we have also people online joining us from around Australia, really, really around Australia, and you can imagine. Our forum today is being held on the lands of the Wurundjeri Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation. We would like to acknowledge them as the traditional custodians of the land we are meeting on today. We recognize the continuing connection to the land and thank them for protecting the beautiful surroundings we are able to enjoy. We would like to pay our respects to their elders, past and present, as it is their knowledge and experience that we cherish and respect, and which hold the key to the success of future generations. As I mentioned, we have many people online today, so please feel free to write in the Q&A function which land you are located on today and pay your respects. We are meeting very closely to our yarning circle, just right outside. Yarning circles have been used in the Aboriginal culture for thousands of years. It is a place to learn from as a collective group, build respectful relationships, and to preserve and pass on cultural knowledge. We are here today to learn from each other and share our knowledge as a community. So thank you. I'm very pleased to welcome Mayor Councillor Marcia Timmers-Leach to open our event today. So please welcome her with a round of applause.
I do like to present a mouthful of a name. So well done, Mayan. You've done really well. And thank you for that really lovely welcome to country. I think when we're part of this intergenerational forum, I'd like to just add to that. I think you did a wonderful job acknowledging elders past and present, but I also always like to acknowledge our emerging leaders in this space. I think that's really important when we're talking about an intergenerational forum that we are tonight. And I'd also like to build on that and just take special acknowledgement of any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people that we have with us today or we have joining us online. My name is Marcia Timmers-Leach. I am the Mayor of Knox City Council, and I've had the pleasure of being someone who hasn't turned off their own phone. So let's take that off. I've had the pleasure of being the chair of the Early Years Advisory Committee and the Youth Advisory Committee, and being parts of those advisory committees and seeing the work that we have already done in our advisory committees in our intergenerational space is just so important, and I've really enjoyed that learning along the way. We have here in the building tonight, we have Councillor Yvonne Allred. She's also been part of the Early Years Advisory Committee and now just newly appointed to the Youth Advisory Committee, representing and hearing from those views. And we have Councillor Suzanne Lawkins, who's also been on many advisory committees. I'm not sure if they've been age specific at this stage, Councillor Lawkins, no, but you know, obviously being here to listen to what's happening in the room to make sure she can be informed on how important this space is awesome. We have our CEO with us, Bruce Dobson, who I know is leading from the top in this space as well. I'd also like to acknowledge we have Judy Chalkley here, who is our Acting Director of Connected Communities. So thank you for joining us, Judy. And Neville here in the front row, our Acting Manager of Community Access and Support. We have an amazing amount of officers here today, and I could probably go on for the next hour and a half with just all the people that we have here. So I'm going to move on, but thank you all for joining us today. This is the Building Connections Between Generations Forum, and as Mayan mentioned earlier, we have an amazing amount of participants here in this room, but it's just so amazing that we've got people joining us from all over Victoria, Queensland, New South Wales, WA and Tasmania. So if you are joining online, thank you so much for joining us. We're pretty excited that we're being able to bring together so many wonderful people. Tonight is all about intergenerational programs and the benefits that they have for our community. It's just so important to have programs that bring generations together, because so often we are separated by age, and our institutions, from schools to retirement villages, group people together in a similar age bracket. Yet, when we break down those normal groupings and bring together different generations, we see people gaining greater understanding and respect for each other. We see our community becoming more connected and more inclusive. In fact, intergenerational contact is one of the most effective interventions to reduce both ageism in older people as well as younger people. And I think that's really important. I'm very pleased that tonight we have a broad representation from our community here. And if you're from any of these organisations, join in. Give us a little woo-hoo, we're from here. I'm more than happy to see who's in the room tonight. So we've got organisations being represented by each. Swinburne University, the Eastern Community Legal Centre. Yay, someone did it. The Australian Institute of Intergenerational Practice, who I know have been instrumental in promoting this event tonight on their page. And I know that's probably where a lot of our interstate participants. So thank you so much to those representatives as well. Eastern Regional Libraries, I know, yes, we've got back there. The Migrant Information Centre is here as representatives too. Of course, we have our community houses. I've definitely seen members of our advisory committees here tonight, various local retirement villages, kindergartens, playgroups, primary schools, secondary schools, clubs and groups. So we've got a really broad range of experience and interest at this forum tonight, which I'm really just so thrilled to be a part of. So I would encourage you to make the most of this experience. And for those of you who are in the room, when we get to the networking section, take that time to network with others, and maybe we can start some really great conversations on how we join together. We want to use this experience to form a networking group. So after this event, you will receive an email with information on how you can join and be a part of that. At Knox, we are committed to increasing community respect and inclusion for all ages. In our council plan, we have committed to designing and delivering a range of intergenerational activities, events and programs across the Knox municipality. We also have a child, youth and senior plan, which outlines our key initiatives in this area. We are part of the Average Age Counts Coalition and a founding member of the AIIP. This forum came about after connecting with local organisations and hearing about the programs that are already in place. The information that they wanted to share was so valuable and so inspiring that we wanted to create a way to share it with you all. You can also hear about some of the connections that we've made by some of the videos that we've seen tonight. And we saw Levi and Patrick, you know, at the bowling club, and I don't know the names of the lady and the sister as well, but certainly you can see the benefits that we're already having. And I know the benefits that just even my kids have with hanging out with their grandparents and crafting together and passing on those skills. It's just so valuable. Now, as you can imagine, there's been a lot that goes on behind the scenes to put together an event like this. So I'd like to take a moment just to to thank our social connections team, who've done a fantastic job in bringing this together tonight. This event is actually the first of its kind in Knox, and I'm sure it won't be the last. I know we've got 3 excellent speakers. I've been having a chat with them earlier tonight. So Tracy Verbeck is here, Craig McPherson and Kirby Crowley. Thank you so much to each of you for sharing your valuable experiences tonight. I'm really looking forward to hearing your stories, and I hope that tonight's event inspires you all. Good luck with your own programs. So, here you go.
Thank you, Mayor Marcia. Thank you to our Mayor, Councillor Marcia Timmers-Leach, for that wonderfully inspiring address. Welcome, everyone. My name is Brianna Bloomfield, and I'm the Intergenerational Project Officer here at Knox City Council. Tonight, we come together to hear from our 3 special guests to share their knowledge and wisdom in developing and implementing intergenerational programs. Let me reintroduce you to Tracy Verbeck, facilitator of Young at Heart Playgroup Canara House in Upper Ferntree Gully.
Hello, everybody.
We also have Kirby Crowley, Centre Manager at Aurora Early Education in Rowville. Welcome, Kirby. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Craig McPherson from Auburn High School, secondary school teacher. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
So Tracy, you're currently running the Young at Heart Playgroup. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that program?
Yes, we were lucky enough to get a grant from the Bendigo Bank, and yeah, we just decided an intergenerational playgroup would be fit very well at Canara. We do have 3-year-old playgroup, 3-year-old playgroup, and also 3-year-old kinder and occasional care at Canara. So we're lucky enough that we have the room already set up, which is fabulous. We started, February last year, just on the tail end of COVID, and we have Willowbrook Aged Care Facility across the road. unfortunately, they just loved the idea, but they just thought it was just a little bit too much of an issue with COVID still hanging around. So at this point, they had declined. So then we did a little bit of a advertisement with brochures, local doctors, actually Knox Bright Ideas. Yeah, got a couple of people through that, which is fabulous. And yeah, we slowly got together a group of mums first, then the seniors. So all in all, we had 7 seniors, 7 parents, and 10 kids. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tracy. Now, Kirby, you partnered with Pepper Tree Hill Retirement Village with your program just before COVID-19. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. We started the program in 2019. Again, it did require a lot of persistence and communication to kind of build those bonds first. Like I believe most of us know, it is very difficult to enter a space and immediately have those connections. There's a lot of work involved with that. So when we got that kind of up and running, we were able to have the children visit Pepper Trees Hill on site and have that kind of connection start to be built, not only between the admin staff, but also the children and the residents there.
Great. And just moving sort of a little bit more into that, with having it on site at the retirement village, how did you think about transporting the children? Did they walk or did they get a bus? How did that work?
Yeah, so we did start by walking to the service. We tried that a few times and we had some very, very tired 4 and 5-year-olds. It was about a 15-minute walk, relatively flat, but definitely a little bit of a distance that they did struggle with. We started kind of first of all having some internal discussions about what was achievable and what was going to be viable. In terms of renting a bus every month, that was our plan, to visit every month. Renting a bus every month, you know, we do have a budget and it was looking at exceeding that. We then decided to pull in the other stakeholders, which of course was Pepper Tree Hill. We told them what our issue was and ways that we were working through kind of some strategies to resolve those issues. And they came up with a very generous offer to give us their courtesy bus. So each month their courtesy bus would come, collect our educators and our children and take them back to Pepper Tree Hill. And then after the session was over, they would drop them back off. So of course that not only is building an amazing connection once more, but it gave us that opportunity to continue the program without that kind of expense worry, which I think everybody can kind of relate to.
What a wonderful partnership. Thank you, Kirby. Now, Craig, the digital literacy program that's running out of Auburn High School. Now, how long has that been running for now?
Well, our PADSIP program, that PADSIP, that stands for Positive Aging, Digital Storytelling, Intergenerational Project.
That's a mouthful.
Right, take a rest now.
I think I like PADSIP. I like PADSIP.
PADSIP, yeah, we like it. And so it's been running since, or the concept since 2007, so 15 years now. So that initially started by fellow Mark Silver, who at the time was working through Uniting Aged Care in Hawthorn, and he had applied and had won a local community strengthening grant in the Burundara Council there, and was looking for a school to make a partnership, and sent out sort of flyers and emails around to a whole bunch of places. And our principal at the time saw it, and I think at the time he was working with his father into aged care, and so there's some meaning in the project itself, and jumped straight onto it and said yes, you could see the value in it straight away. And then came to myself and another teacher, and we sort of ran with the concept from then.
So, Craig, what year level did you start the program with, and is that year level still the same now, or is there a few different year levels?
Yes, yes, and yes. So it started in year 10, and it was a media arts subject. So normally in that program, or the actual project itself involves younger people and the older people getting together and creating 3 to 5 minute digital stories or videos to show. So it was a year 10 program and a semester length program. But since then, we've run the program in English classes, humanities classes, and it's taken a whole range of different foci. In one of the English class examples was where the class had been studying the book or the movie Paper Planes. You may remember that. Some sort of themes of relationships and how do you deal with challenging times when things get difficult. And using that as a starting point for conversations really enriched the project. So we've been very flexible over the years, and it's worked at every single level, but it's just a different level of conversation in how you guide it.
Great, thanks, Craig. All right, so now we've heard from each guest speaker this evening around their particular programs. So we thought we might ask them a few specific questions around some of the benefits. So we'll start with you, Tracy. What have you found the benefits and successes of the playgroup at Kunara House been for yourself and the participants?
Yep, it was amazing just to watch it evolve. Everyone was very enthusiastic. Kids being kids are a little bit shy initially. And, of course, the first few weeks it was everyone getting to know each other. The mums on board were really great communicators, and we were lucky enough the seniors were too. And I would set the room up just with a whole lot of different activities, a heap of different activities outside. And just to watch it evolve each week, and the kids get more and more confident with the seniors, more and more confident with the other parents. The conversation between the seniors and the parents, the sharing of ideas, talking about, the seniors, their day back in the day, as far as everything, school, transport, no childcare, swapping of recipes, teaching one of the parents how to knit. One of the parents is actually a hairdresser. So in the end, she would go to Helen's place in the morning and then they'd come across to playgroup, which was fabulous. So it was just lovely to see the kids eventually leave their parents' side and go and chat to the seniors. But just the conversation too between the seniors and the parents, it was brilliant. So all round, there was a lot of benefits, the confidence with the kids, the seniors being listened to and sharing their stories, but being valued, I think. I think they got a lot out of that, being valued. And the parents learning a few things from back in the day. And yeah, just all round, it was very, very successful. So much so, I run a play group on a Monday, and some of the seniors, they didn't want it to stop. So they're just coming along as visitors. But yeah, very, very much involved. So it's fabulous. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. Kirby, would you say some of those are similar successes and outcomes in your program as well?
Yeah, absolutely. In early childhood, we work a lot with the early years learning frameworks, which talks a lot about identity, communication, well-being, learning, and all of those aspects, not only for the children involved, but for the residents involved as well. The program was a really good starting point to build on some of those. So the children were able to branch out into the community, start to understand, a little bit more about what's happening besides what's occurring within their space. So building on their sense of community and what that means to kind of be a successful and contributing member of a community. And it was the same for the residents involved at Pepper Tree Hill. In some cases, some of those residents were not necessarily mobile, so were not able to branch out as far into the community as they would maybe have liked. Having the children come there and share their stories and share their experiences both ways, the children telling stories, the residents telling stories, it really opened up what that sense of community was. It built on all of those children's confidences in how to share and how to express their ideas. And overall, just the success of the relationships that were built, you could just see learning in every conversation, in every interaction. You know, you could look at something and go, oh, you know, 2 weeks ago, that child was standing next to the educator and now they're initiating conversations with the residents, and they're pulling, you know, residents out of their chairs to come over and come and have a look at this. And you could just see the benefits were twofold for both parties.
Do you think environment's got a really big factor in developing a program, Kirby, like environmental factors for all participants?
Yeah, absolutely. That was probably one of our main concerns when we first started the program, was how would our children go leaving their environment, you know, not only the walk or the bus in the end, but entering a brand new environment with new faces, new people, you know, and they're little. So new big people could be quite scary for them, and how were we going to prepare them for that? So there was a lot of discussions held about, you know, kind of expectations and what they may see or what they may hear, what people may be there. And what it might look like. We had some photos sent over of the environment so the children could have a look at the venue before they actually entered that venue. And the same can be said of the residents of Pepper Tree Hill as well. You know, there's a lot of little people coming and we're invading a space that is very comfortable for them. So also setting the residents up to be prepared for what that may look like and how to set boundaries themselves with these little humans. And so talking to the children about listening to when one of the residents may want you to possibly move aside or take a step back or quieten our voice, but also preparing those residents for that change in their environment as well.
Yeah, wonderful. It's certainly a consideration, I think, for both participants to make it enjoyable for everyone. But I think it also highlights a really important factor of co-facilitating a program. So it shouldn't be just, you know, one group organising the program. It should really be a joint effort. Craig, over to you around successes and benefits of your program at Auburn.
Well, it's many benefits in a whole range of areas. Certainly, as you were saying, in the relationships, it's a lovely opportunity to almost engineer those situations that enable both the younger and older people to show themselves at their best to one another. Now they're coming together. There's no sort of history or baggage or anything attached. You're meeting each other, who you are at there and then, and this lovely new relationship that starts. So I think that's a wonderful benefit of the program, and just the general engagement in conversation. And often once we get underway, even though some people might say, but I don't have a story to tell, I'm boring, I don't do anything. It's really interesting to see that everyone has something to share, to say what they've done, and it really improves your self-esteem and just that connectedness with the community. It's fantastic.
And sometimes you might find, certain students may open up a little bit more to someone in the program because they perhaps don't know them that well, or they're not family. So there could be some new information that's sort of shared between them and that connection built as well.
Yeah, and we've that goes both ways. It's interesting in the program. Some of the benefits, there's the immediate conversations that are occurring in the room, but then later anecdotally, you often hear the anticipation leading up to the event and the conversations that are going on, whether it's in, not so often in the kids' homes, because sometimes they're lucky if you get a couple of grunts out of the kids at home, but certainly in the the older adults' lives, wherever they may be living, the anticipation of meeting up with those kids, and also what follows afterwards, the conversations that generates. I know we've had situations where in some of the aged care places that there are a few adults involved, but then the conversation has been with the broader group when they return, or if we've been online, that been a group, but everyone else that's sitting around within sort of listening distance has been fantastic. And also later on hearing sometimes from the children of some of the older adults when we meet up with them later on. And sometimes we've had the children of the older adults say, I never knew that about my mum and my dad. They never talked about this. Now, the conversations that you have with people other than family, it's really interesting. So can be huge sort of spin-off positive effects of this.
Great. So obviously the three of you are running quite sort of different but similar programs in a way. How do you make these programs meaningful for the participants? Kirby, I might start with you.
So I think in terms of finding meaning, it's for us, with the children, it's about setting them up for success and to build on those confidences. So introducing them to a new situation, a new environment, we're really building on that self-esteem and the ability to handle those new situations. We're also, with our little people, our little humans, we're building on their communication skills. We're building on their social understandings and what that looks like. And in order to achieve those meaningful interactions, you need to interact with a variety of people. And in a care environment, such as an early learning centre, it's not necessarily easy for all children, but they're in a bit of a comfort zone. They're with their peers at a similar level. Of course, each child builds and grows at their own pace, but to come outside of that environment and that setting that they're used to almost on a daily basis and be able to get introduced to those new social cues, those new communication techniques, really builds that meaning within their learning journey, I suppose.
Fantastic. Tracy, do you have anything to add about making it meaningful for everyone?
Yes, I think I could really see it particularly with the seniors. Some of them had active lives, but were still a certain sense of loneliness, where their families may have lived a little bit far away. They didn't see their grandkids as often as what they would like. And just the connection that they grew with the children and the parents really gave them something to look forward to each week. And they were very much in a comfort zone while they were there. So, the initial thing, everyone's using their best manners. And then after a few weeks, it gets real. And that's where the magic sort of really started to happen. And just funny stories were shared. And as I said, one of the mums, oh, I'm a hairdresser, just come to my place. And Helen's saying, oh, I'll get all the toys out for the kids. And that, that would be a very exciting thing. And Helen, the senior, would rock up and say, oh, she came to my place today and she did my hair. And just the friendship that came from it. It was, absolutely invaluable. It was terrific, actually. Yeah.
Great. And Craig, making it meaningful for all of your participants as well. I guess you have mentioned to me previously that you have some older participants repeating, so they come back from year to year to participate in the program. So how do you keep it meaningful for them when they're actually doing it more than once?
Yeah, it's interesting. We do have a number of our adults that just want to come back and be a part of it. And sometimes tell the same story. That's fine. I think a lot of it is not so much about whatever the story might be. It's about making those connections with someone else, someone listening to you. So we try to engineer those scenarios, as I was saying earlier, where there's an active listening. So we will have in a project group, like 1 or 2 adults, perhaps, maybe 3 to 4 students, depending, in a group. And then as a group, they'll come up with their story idea, and that's a whole conversation in itself. Deciding what you're going to do a collective story about. But yeah, it's all about creating those situations where, as I was going to say, we are like one of the students and the adults at the end of their conversation, we all come back together as one large group and share what we've learned about others. So you really have to listen, and it's interesting that the students very quickly want to show that respect, and they just want to show that they're listening and paying respect.
Really powerful, because I think that shows so much connection that they've got with each other, but the group as a whole as well. And I was really lucky to visit the reunion of the PADSIP program earlier this year, and the students and older participants hadn't seen each other for around 6 weeks. And I was there just to observe, because I just wanted to stand back and watch, and the connections that happened in that room just were like old friends. It was just marvelous and so endearing to see and watch. And they just pick up where they left off, and it was just lovely. So they're the things that you don't really get to see, though, do you? Like those facial expressions and that connection that is really hard to measure. All right, now I'm going to flip it around a little bit now, so I'm keeping it real. What barriers have you faced when developing your programs? So any challenges and barriers? I'm sure COVID-19 is a big one. But maybe we'll start with you, Craig. What's been a bit of a challenge and a barrier for you?
Well, I guess in setting up a program, getting it to work, depending on the class or the year level that we were doing the project with, it was really important to very early up be really good friends with the timetabler at the school and put the schedule together. And for a little while, I was that person, so that worked well. But yeah, being very clear, because in terms of between your older adults or your community groups and the school, trying to find, for us, it was a weekly meeting, the same time each week. We tried doing it different times. We have a 10-day or 2-week timetable at our school, and it was just too confusing to have a different day every second week. So a bit of negotiation to get the class working at the right time. So that's really important. But also one of the other areas to look at, certainly in the schooling scenario, was organising all the working with children checks. We were lucky enough, because we're currently partnered with Swinburne University through the Wellbeing Clinic for older adults, through Mark Silver, who's there, and a number of other fantastic supporters and volunteers that come in and help us. We had support in trying to get those working with kids checks done. So some of those little technical things need to work behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I think that's something, is another consideration that needs to be brought into the program, because not always the older participants have access to technology and know how to apply for one. So that's something that is obviously a requirement, but certainly needs to be considered as well. Kirby, is there anything else you'd like to add around any barriers and challenges?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think when you're setting up a program like this, it takes a lot of commitment. And one of those challenges was that commitment and that consistency. COVID did put a spanner in the works, as it did with most industries. And following that little spanner, we did find it very difficult to get back to where we wanted to be, and we're still not there yet. So we were full swing throughout 2019, moving into 2020. And then of course, we've had a couple of years of COVID, and our format, we looked at changing that and what that would look like and how we would be able to implement and still build that connection. And we went through a variety of formats throughout that. But I think one of the major barriers that kind of came up was it was a 2-year, 3-year process. And in that time we've had, I mean, I'm not in the role that I used to be in. The person that was our main connector also isn't there anymore. We've had our kindergarten teacher has been our consistent, which has been amazing. But we've had a change in centre manager, a change in educational leader, a change in management. And the same can be said of Pepper Tree Hill. So that connection itself and that consistency was definitely a barrier for us. And like I said, we're still looking at building that back up. We've recently had another educational leader come on board who's going to take over that responsibility of being the spearhead for this program, for it to continue, because it's definitely something that we want to maintain.
Watch this space. And Tracy, any barriers and challenges that haven't been shared already that you might like to add?
I guess at Kanara, it was more bringing seniors into a space where there was a lot of small things on the ground, and them getting so engaged with the kids and the risk hazard of them tripping over, toys being on the ground, that sort of thing. One of the ladies came in, 81-year-old Marjorie, and she said, "My dear, I am so glad to be here, but I will not be sitting in that little chair." And I said, "Don't worry, Marjorie, we've got adult-sized chairs. It'll all be fine." So for us, it was more like the practical things. Walking out of Kanara, there was a couple of little steps, and a couple of our seniors were a little bit unbalanced just because of their age. So it was always being very mindful of that, and also giving the parents the heads up, because I can't be everywhere, but just to be mindful of those things. So we were all on the same page. Yeah.
Fantastic, great considerations. All right, if you could share one key lesson from developing your program, what would this be? Tracy?
Let me think. I think, yeah, just even if you come across a few hiccups, just keep going forward with it. Something always works, and have your plan, but be open enough to let things grow organically. Because often it's not until you get it going that you think you're going to put something in place, and then the dynamics of the personalities, you make changes along the way. So just let things grow organically a little bit and sit back and observe. And there's a lot of learning done in that. Yeah.
And Kirby?
Yes, I would agree with Tracy, and I kind of touched point on it earlier when I talked about that consistency and persistence. I think one of the key points was when somebody did move away from the project, it did cause a halt or a pause or a change. So I suppose building on that consistency so that regardless of who's coming and going, as there always is, regardless of who's coming and going, that program is steady. And like I mentioned, we're not there yet either. We're still building that consistency to get to a point where we've got the strength to continue without a spearhead or a central figure. So yeah, just consistency and persistence.
Thanks, Kirby. Now, Craig, I guess in the PADSIP program, it's probably quite important to try and pair up the participants well. Do you do sort of a little bit of pre-screening beforehand to sort of make sure that they're sort of on the same page?
Look, yeah, it's an interesting question, because we always wonder, how do you match people up in a sense? So we start our program, our first session, we're sitting around in a circle. Prior to the project starting, we met with the students beforehand, and either brought in an older adult, and what, for example, Mark Silver will come in with us just to talk to the students about what it's like to be an older person, or any questions that the kids might have before we start the program. And the same thing occurs as much as we can with the older adults, to meet and any questions about what's going to happen with the program before we come together. So I think that's really important. But then together in a circle, quick introductions around in a circle. Often we've done things like, do you know the name of the story of your name, why you have the name that you have? And that can be an interesting starting point for a conversation. And you find out some fascinating things. And then it's also a quick chat about maybe a hope or dream that you have, or a special talent you'd like to share. And then, you know, everyone's sort of sizing everyone up as we go around with introductions. So that then the following week, it's almost like a bit of speed dating. We'll get, I'll have the kids organised into groups that they sort of want to be in. I've set them up with some starter interview questions, because often one of the things the kids ask, what do we ask? What do we talk about to older people, you know? So a few starter questions, and then by the end of that, a couple of weeks of that, then people got a bit of a sense of who each other is, and it's really interesting who people gravitate to. In all I think the 15 years or so that I've been involved with this, even when we haven't known, we've just put groups together. It works. It's really interesting how organic the process is. And one of the challenges that we put to the group is, right at the end of this session here, I want you to share something that you all have in common, and just leave them to work that out. And it's terrific. It's a great conversation. So that's sort of how that works. A couple of times we've had to sort of slightly tweak a couple of groups, but most of the time it just works. It's really amazing.
And I think when you're developing a program, it's really important to have that. Like you were saying to me a few weeks ago that a theme was pets. So, you know, how important pets are in your life. And I think it doesn't matter what age you are, pets are such an important part. So that's a really good connector in the fact that brings people together and discussions generated organically around pets. So yeah, great work. All right, moving on to our lucky last question, and then we are opening it up to our audience for some questions. So get those burning questions ready. Could I ask you, Tracy, to share a memorable moment from your program?
Oh, we had many. The one I picked was Hat Day, and I bought all these different hats, policeman hats, nurse hats, cowboy hats, crocodile Dundee hats, all sorts of things. And we had them all out, and the kids went and chose a hat for all the seniors and the parents. And it was really lovely to see the seniors go silly. They just went silly. And then the kids went silly, and then the parents went silly, and they were just having so much fun. So then they grabbed the sunglasses, the necklaces, and the feedback afterwards from the seniors was that was so much fun. It was just like being a kid. Like we were just in that space where we could just be silly, and it was just brilliant. It was just a very simple thing, but a fabulous day. It was just a fabulous day for everybody.
I like the sound of Hat Day. I think I want to visit that one too. Kirby, have you got a memorable moment you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, again, we had lots of interactions that, you know, would melt the heartstrings or make you giggle. We had residents that would say, I've been looking forward to this all week or all month even. But I think one thing that stood out with me, which actually I was reminded of during a conversation I had tonight, was we had one of our little girls who would consistently bring a comfort doll with her So she would bring her little dolly in just to kind of help her remain a little bit grounded and have something of hers that she could hold on to. And one of the residents there kind of recognised that, and we went away for the month to come back the following month. And in that time, she had knitted and crocheted a lot of baby doll outfits and had given those not only to the little girl with the doll, but for us to take back to the centre. So just a really beautiful connection.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Craig, I'm sure you have many moments.
Yeah, there are. We've got trying to think, but one that sticks in my mind takes us right back to the very first program that we ran in 2007. The story goes that the younger 15-year-old Tom and 70-ish-year-old John met together in the program. John had been attending some day activity program at the Uniting Aged Care Centre. So, and he had sort of lost a bit of contact with his family and was looking to make connections in the community. So he came along with the program. So Tom and John got together and they came up with their idea for their story about comparing their lives. So John was in the Navy, a merchant sailor, and Tom had been in the Cub Scouts. So they were able to compare their experiences there. So John had sort of done a bit of travel and Tom had been to a fantastic family holiday up to Movie World. And they put this amazing story together comparing their lives. And at the end of that, we celebrate the project by showing the films, but in the evening, sitting around tables, we have the older adult and the younger adult with their respective family or friends. So they all get to meet one another, which is lovely. So, and as it turned out, Tom's family almost sort of adopted John into their family, and they became great friends, and they go around for roast dinners and that sort of stuff for quite some time. And then a couple of years later, when we were launching another program, we often invite some past participants back to share, this is what it's like, this is what you can get to look forward to. So the John, we're going to replay the digital story comparing lives. John wasn't able to be there. He was a bit unwell at this point in time, but Tom was there and showed the story. But what Tom didn't know was that John had also recorded an extra little bit to show at the end of the program. And it was just like a thank you to him for the emotion there, inviting him back into his life. And you sort of finished off by saying, if I'd had a son, you would be someone I'd love to have a son like you. It was like, oh, melt your heart stuff. But the connection, the impact that relationship had on the two of them, but their families. And, through the video, there's that legacy of what occurred. And through many of the videos that we've produced in the program, having captured that, in film, the voice and the conversation, families have those legacies down the track. So it's a wonderful thing. Yeah.
It really is. Beautiful. All right, now we're going to move into question time. And Mayan, I might start with our online questions from our online guests. Do we have any that we?
Yes, I want to say there's a lot of questions online.
That's good.
Brie, but we are going to start with a question from Samuel. Do you think that employing an independent agency to facilitate the program would assist with consistency? And what he means by that is there would be consistency of lead staff and reducing the burden on educators.
Who would like to respond to that one?
Okay. I'll have a little go. I think there's definitely space in which that a role could definitely be very beneficial to a program to have that person whose responsibility it is to facilitate. I think it's also not always viable in certain settings, which does make it a little bit difficult. For myself, my Aurora Early Education, we are a small privately run service. Sorry, we're getting a little bit of an echo. So for us, there are kind of multitudes of roles that do come up, but we also don't have a huge organisation to draw from. So it does become a little bit difficult to facilitate that. So I definitely see some benefits of it, but I also kind of see where in some cases that may not work as well. And coming together as a team is really going to be the most beneficial way to kind of move forward in those settings.
Thank you, Kirby. We're going to take two more from online. So we have Debbie from Each, which has really written a really nice one. We have a dream. They have a dream, a vision, a hope to commence a group that includes young people in their late teens and early retirees. There is a current connection between these groups in one of their programs, but it is not intentional intergenerational project. And they really hope to expand that as an intergenerational project. She wants to hear any wisdom or insight that you think might help turning that program into intergenerational. Guess maybe Craig?
Sure. Okay. I think for us, our connection with community partners has enabled our program to strengthen and grow. So through our connection with Swinburne University, there through Mark Silver, who's the social worker coordinator there, the services, that's been a really strong connection. It's finding those champions in your own local community that really value the work and want to be a part of it. But again, it's that continuity of delivery of the program, as you were saying. Mark Silver now, he's now living up in Yakandanda and starting a program up there, but conducting a lot of the work online. So COVID sort of allowed us to do these sorts of things. But and even at the school level, with myself and a couple of others as key players, it's thinking about who's going to be the next people along to keep this energy and project going. At our school, as I said, have been integrated into a number of different subjects along the way. We've set up for the first time this year in our Year 9 program in the second semester, a Year 9 elective. So it's been open to all the Year 9s to elect to go into this project, so that it's becoming a formal part of our curriculum at the school. Because I guess
can I interrupt and say it's full? Everyone has elected to do that subject. So it's a 22 students.
Yeah, so which is terrific. But so it's, I think that's the key thing. If the school certainly values it, so the leadership downward has always seen the strength in the program. But now that we've been able to formally embed it in the curriculum, and through Mark Silver and the university at the moment, they've won a grant of money, and we're working towards putting a toolkit together, like how to do it sort of thing for our project idea that we can then potentially roll out to other schools or any other organisations that might be thinking about running these sorts of programs. So we're trying to capture what we do for the longevity of the project.
Thank you, Champion Craig. Okay, any more there, Mayan?
I'll do another one from online and then we'll move to the crowd. Sally. So we do have a question from Coda, Tasmania. So from Bridget from Tasmania, which is exciting. What ways do you collect info or stories from participants to evaluate effectiveness of your programs? And do senior assist to co-design sessions? So maybe Tracy would like to start with that one.
Yeah, we're probably more grassroots level, I would say. Yeah, I think we're just more grassroots level with that one. So, yeah.
Kirby, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I can share some of our kind of record taking and documentation. I think a lot of people know in the early years sector, there is a lot of need to document journeys. So for us, it's about the individual journey as well as the journey as a whole. So we do a lot of documentation that is individual child based. So we look at the goals that we had set for each child individually and connected that program to their goals themselves. So not just our service goals, but the child's goals. So this way we're able to kind of share that program at a really meaningful level with the families by sharing these stories as to how we're achieving their child's goals through this program that's being implemented. On a wider level, we do have, of course, content and marketing. So we do have blogs, we have articles in our local newspapers, we have those outlets where we're able to share exactly what's happening. Many of our families are amazing and have ticked that little box to say yes to social media. So we're able to share a lot of the photos of the children and the residents and what the program actually means to us through those articles or those blogs or our Facebook sites or Instagram sites. So we've got a lot of avenues that we use for that.
Do Peppertree Hill kind of do their evaluation as well from the older participants? Is that something that maybe you're looking at this year? Or?
Yeah, so previously they also had their outlets that we were able to share. So we've got our newsletters where we were able to share events that were occurring within the Peppertree Hill environment, just like they shared our kind of events within their environment as well. They, of course, have their own admin side of things in which they have discussions with families or residents in regards to sharing those stories and what that may look like. Similar to early years, there is permission. Everybody has the right to say no to what is shared or what isn't shared. So they had their kind of admin processes that they undertook, and then we're able to integrate those quite seamlessly into the program, either by directing some of those photos or some of those interactions, and just ensuring that a lot of communication was between ourselves and Peppertree Hill to make sure we were all understanding what we could share and possibly what we couldn't.
Fantastic, thank you. All right, we might move to our in-person audience. Now, Sally, I saw your hand creep up. Would you have a question?
It was more an observation that I had come to from the 3 different versions of what you had shared in relation possibly to the answer, an observation that's relevant to the question from each. You know, if you've got a group of older teenagers and you've already got a group of seniors, like where do you start? What I observed is that all of you spoke about the main core component was active listening, and people genuinely, because they're actively listening, paying attention and then sort of extrapolating on that. And then Mark, you had said that, Craig, you had said that one of the things you had observed with the stories is that families are going, oh, I never knew that about dad or mum. Because often families stop actively listening to each other. So, you know, it would have to be then that one of the core things that is developed through this or encouraged as a good starting point is active listening. Is that right? Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Correct. And we, you know, before, as I say, before the program gets underway and when everyone comes together, there's a lot of pre-work that's done to ensure that those conversations and the things that you're trying to do work. I mean, little things that we do, we've had assigning students to different roles, like a couple of students are going to be the tea and coffee makers and others are on a roster, and others will meet our older participants and welcome them. And some of those sorts of things. I mean, it's interesting teaching some people how to make a tea and a coffee, you know. So there's all sorts of skills that come out of it, and just how do you introduce yourself to someone else? There's a lot of terrific sort of conversational skills that come out of it.
Yeah,
Thanks, Craig.
but assumptions gone out of it. Do you know what I mean? Because people are, oh, they do have to pay attention to get any kind of meaning out of it. So,
Yeah, and it's deliberately creating those scenarios to allow that to happen. Yeah.
And I would agree as well with the active listening. You know, when you're starting those conversations, like each said, they've got the two community groups there. So there's a little bit of intent and a little bit of listening involved in what does each group want? What is each group looking to get out of this? And then that way you can, like you were saying, build a program off what those conversations are.
Thanks, Kirby. Thanks, Sally, for your question. Have we got any other questions? Oh, we've got hands up. Yes, thanks, Cara.
This is for Craig. Craig, with the youth, two questions. One is, how long does each session last? Like, is it a semester or a year? And the second question is, do you find with the youth that have in those groups or come through those groups, do they develop a different level of compassion and community mindedness to the kids that are not involved in the group?
Well, yeah, thank you for the question. Look, in terms of the timing of the sessions at our school, our classes run for 1 hour. So it's a really condensed sort of session. So occasionally, I'll, depending on what class I might have afterwards, I'll have a great relationship with the teacher that takes the next class and might extend a session every now and then. But organisation is really key, so that everyone's got a role. They come in, we're straight into it with the conversations, quick introductions into your groups. We have some guiding questions or whatever's going to happen that day. So there is a framework, a plan for it, and then come back together at the end. And we're really tight on the timing of it. Well, we normally go over time a bit, but officially we're really tight with time. Yeah, so an hour typically. Ideally 2 hours. We'd like to have a longer time, but it can be done in the hour. Typically we have 10 sessions. So the project sort of like a term and a half in a semester. So last year, in the first half of the year, we ran it with a year 9 program in humanities, and then in the second half of the year with a year 7 class. And very different conversations, very sort of the depth that they're going to with it. But, you know, you meet each other at whatever level you meet each other at, and the conversations just flow and you just work with it. So it's always worked. With those, the depth and the topics that we talk about, yeah.
And the observations around the different attitudes?
Yeah, well,
do you notice it?
Yeah, well, certainly, like one anecdotal story in terms of one of the students who's understanding what it's like to be old was through the limited eyes of the one older person in the family that she experienced, and that person happened to be not so mobile or not so well, and that it sort of framed her thinking of what it's like to be old. And so then the program itself, getting the opportunity to meet a whole range of people in a whole range of scenarios, really opened up her eyes going, oh, you know, there's all sorts of possibilities here to aging. This is not my future, you know. And like for us, it was, oh, okay, that's you just don't know the impact sometimes. That just came out of a conversation that the students had with one of our supporters in the project, and was fed through to us. So yeah, it can have a lot of impact.
Thank you for your question. Have we got any more questions? One more. Mayor Councillor Marcia.
I'm just building on this lady's query. I'm actually really interested in the practical. Obviously, year 9s, 10s, 7s in high school is a really difficult time. We're seeing a lot of absenteeism and recidivism and so forth. Have you seen any direct correlation in better participation rates or less absenteeism or improved general behaviour from the participants within the program?
Yes, is an answer there. Look, as I'm saying it, the kids don't want to disappoint the older adult that's there. And sometimes, the older adult's different to the teacher or the parent or there's someone that's in a different role. But never had a situation in all the years of doing it where, the young person hasn't wanted to show themselves at their best, and show respect to the older person, just that opportunity to show thought and to ask a question or to do something for them. And it works both ways, in terms of showing the respect. We've had older adults come in and say afterwards, they've had sort of coloured views from their experience of teenagers or just what they've seen in the media on TV, because they haven't necessarily been out interacting with teenagers. And they suddenly think, oh, you're nice people, you talk to us and it's so it works from the other side as well.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, now I'm quite aware of the time, so this now brings us to a bit of a close. I would just like to thank our wonderful 3 guest panellists this evening. Please give them a round of applause. The knowledge that you've all shared tonight has been very inspirational and very beneficial to many. So thank you so much for being here with us. Now, we actually do have a small gift for the 3 of you. So just stay seated. And Mayor Councillor Marcia, Timmins-Leach, would you like to? Okay, so this one's for Tracy. So we can bring it through to her.
Lovely, thanks.
Gift for Kirby as well. Thank you, Kirby. And Craig, gift for you as well. Thank you.
Bri, I just want to mention that there's a lot of thank you from online and how the panel was very inspirational. So just so you know, a lot of feedback also from online, thanking the panelists.
Wonderful. Thank you for that feedback. I would like to thank our Mayor, Councillor Marcia Timmins-Leach, councillors, executive management and council staff and attendees, both online and in person, for joining us this evening. Please be advised that an email will be sent out tomorrow, which will have some resources and also some helpful links. There'll also be a bit of a survey as well of tonight's event. So we'd be really interested if you could please provide that feedback and return to us. Enjoy the rest of your night. Let's continue to build intergenerational connections between generations here in Knox and beyond. Thank you.
I think what we should do though is I think that this session was so amazingly run and facilitated because of, I'm going to get on screen. Hi everyone on screen. I think tonight was just so amazing and I was in it from woe to go. I think having the stories on the ground just helps embed in our knowledge. And I'm certainly inspired. And I already know a couple of high schools I want to talk to and refer you to, Craig. So tonight's success, though, I think was just the amazing facilitation of Bree Bloomfield here. So thank you, Bree. The preparation that I can see that you have put in tonight to make this such a success and really a valuable outtake for us is quite evident. I'm really proud that we have such amazing officers here at Knox. And like we said at the start, this is the very first time we've done anything like this. So you've set a pretty high benchmark. And great getting such amazing people to share their stories. So congratulations again.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. All right, now it's time to, chat, talk. I've got some notebooks up the back if you want to take each other's numbers, talk about partnership opportunities. The world's your oyster, so let's go for it. Thanks again, everyone. And please help yourself to some food as well. There's plenty there. Thank you, everyone.